Good Tuesday morning, Market Chameleons, and everyone joining us for the first time. Thanks for coming by and checking out the Market Chameleon pre-market show with this man, Dimitri Pargamonic. How you doing, D?
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Great. You want to start with a disclaimer?
Yep. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, keep in mind, Will and I, Market Chameleon, we're not a registered investment advisor. We're not a broker dealer. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing ideas. If you need advice, call your registered investment advisor. Call your broker. That's what they're there for, to give you advice, provide you with guidance. There's the disclaimer.
Excellent.
Let me share my screen.
While you're doing that, a little show news going forward. I know you made an announcement to the Chameleon community yesterday that you were taking a well-deserved 2-week vacation.
Yep.
And we'd be doing the show when you got back. Well, some people were so distraught at the Chameleon community not being around for 2 weeks that they asked if I was around, if I could do something. So I am rounding up some co-hosts, and we probably will be able to get most of those days with some surprise visitors. So
that's awesome.
I'll keep you posted on that. And we still expect pictures from your trip on that great cruise ship, but we will try to do a series of shows same time. Obviously, it won't be nearly the quality as you, but we will try to do something and let people get on and ask questions and talk to each other. And there you go.
Thank you.
Keep it going.
Yep. So just a quick note, anybody joining us for the first time, Will and I, we do these shows in the morning to help answer questions you have about the Market Chameleon tools, the data you're seeing, maybe the analytics. If you have a question and you want to ask your question live, we have a link to Zoom. It's on that live chat on YouTube. Click on that. Once you get over to Zoom, click on raise your hand. Then you could ask the question. If you prefer to type your question in, you can type that question on the live chat on YouTube. Will's watching it. He'll read them back to me. While we're waiting for more people to join us and questions to come in, we'll start out taking a look at the pre-market report, see what's trading the pre-market hours, if we could get some insights. Then we'll take a look. If we have questions, we'll start with those. If we don't have any questions, we'll continue on some conversations we've had in the previous week, or just build on top of previous questions. So let's start out with the pre-market report, Will, and let me know when questions come in. So pre-market report, these are stocks trading in the pre-market hours. I come down here, I see we have a list of our most active stocks, our biggest percentage gainers, biggest percentage decliners. Down here, I see 39 stocks made our percentage gainers list, 62 in the decliners. So far from that perspective, we're looking like a bearish bias at the open. I'm going to just climb up here really quick as well. Here, we kind of have a summarized view of what's going on in the pre-market hours so far. So right now we're on June 6th. We could see that in the pre-market, we have 324 stocks trading higher than the previous day's close, 382 lower. If we compare the number of shares, so these are the number of stocks. If we look at number of shares, 113.9 million shares that are trading higher, 52.7 lower. So more shares actually trading higher than lower. But if we look at the dollar volume, because not all shares are the same price, if we look at the dollar volume, about $565 million worth of stock trading up, $1.5 billion worth trading down. So overall, still looks like we're set up for bearish bias. Before I filter this list, you can see there are a lot of stocks in here, small cap stocks, ETFs, could be leverage products. So we want to filter it down to a small group of stocks. I do see just one kind of sticks out, and that's moving on news. In yesterday after hours, I believe the SEC sued Binance, and now they're suing Coinbase. They're seeing that down 16.5%. And I guess they're basically coming after these crypto exchanges, and looks to me like they're gonna make them register as an exchange, right?
And we know how hard that is, right?
Yeah, and if you register as an exchange, the interesting thing is that a lot of these crypto exchanges are structured in a way that a traditional exchange would not be allowed to. It's hard to imagine how they could still function, because they would have to separate a lot of their pieces that come together. They'd have to almost like detach themselves, because they have clearing and brokerage and exchange and all this all in one place. And that's not how like the traditional exchanges works. So we'll see how that goes, but it won't, I don't think it's going to be as simple as just registering, because how do you comply? Right? Yes, you could go with the SEC, file.
Well, you have to comply, right? They're not going to carve out. I mean, in my opinion, the SEC is not carving out a niche for them to do something different, right?
That's
as soon as they're regulated, then the SEC takes the risk, right? So they want to. The SEC wants to be very sure that they are meeting the same regulatory requirements they set up for exchanges and clearing firms.
Yeah, and the rules as they're written right now for the exchanges, they don't quite fit, with what the crypto exchanges are doing. It's hard to see how it's kind of like, trying to fit a square into a circle. It's
square
not,
peg in the round hole doesn't work so well.
Yeah, and it's going to be very difficult. I'm sure there are going to be lawsuits, and I don't think these exchanges have a choice but to go through the lawsuit and really, hammer out, every detail. Well, what do they want us to do here, right? Because you have this rule that was written for, not a crypto, not a digital asset. It was written long ago with, certain types of securities in mind. And how do you apply that to a new technology, a new type of security that doesn't trade like in the traditional sense? And it'll be interesting, because here, it's not gonna be as easy as just paying a fine and registering. Like, okay, I did something, I messed up, I did something wrong, I broke a rule, I'm paying a fine, then I have to take corrective action. Because how do you take? They don't know what action to take, right? They don't. Neither Coinbase none of these exchanges really know what corrective action to take here. So they might already have been anticipating that it's going to come down to this at some point, right? At some point, it probably was inevitable, and now you have the SEC, and these exchanges are going to have to, battle it out in court and say, well, how do you apply a rule, that's created for like the New York Stock Exchange? How do you apply that to Coinbase if what they're doing are something that's very different? So it'll be an interesting, but you could see so far down 16.5%. And that news just came out, I believe last night or early this morning. Let's take a look at, let's filter this list down to a smaller group of stocks. And to do that, we have these filters here above. I'm going to use this one in ETF. And when you drop it down, you get a list of ETFs to choose from. Let's pick SPY. That's the S&P 500 ETF, broad-based. Click on that. and the list below will get filtered by stocks that are holdings in SPY. And here we see 4 stocks made our percentage gainers list, 12 on the decliners. So it's not a huge list, not a big list, but we are looking like we're setting up for some bearish buys. And look, it's not even that much considering we're near the 52-week high already, right? Which is like incredible. I think yesterday we almost hit the 52-week high and hit that 20% bull market, in benchmark, you could say, where if we're up 20% from the low, we're back into the bull market mode. And we're very close to that. I think one of the things yesterday, Apple was doing pretty well. They came out with that new product. I don't know if you saw that, Will.
I did.
A little bit.
It looks just like what Meta put out, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
In the fact that it looks like ski goggles, right?
Yeah.
But certainly when you get inside it, because we did buy those Meta goggles and played around with them, and the kids had fun with them for a little bit, but now they sit in a corner collecting dust. I mean, it does look like the tools here are like seeing an iPad in 3D, right? Like you can do a lot of interesting things that you already do on your laptop.
Right. You could
goggles as you're walking around, which it is, I guess, kind of cool. $3,500. I'm not taking a shot at it to play around with, but and I don't do much on a Mac, but maybe for certain people, they'll get in and play around with it and they'll figure things out.
Yeah. I think that's the question everybody's asking for. 3,500. How many can you sell? Right? How big is the market out there for these goggles that are $3,500? Maybe they're gonna get less expensive as you go, but that's the initial rate, and that's a high price for something you're not even sure. It's not like an iPhone where you really you need a phone, you need it. It's something that you use every day, right?
The one thing I thought would be a great feature, and my brother and I have talked about this for years, and listen, this is probably very niche, because we grew up going to Jet games with our father, and we watch the games on TV and talk about it and maybe text back and forth. But if you could put on goggles like this and pay some sort of licensing fee to the NFL or basketball, if that's your thing, or baseball, and you could sit with people you want to, and like you're sitting in the stands talking about the game, really having at stadium experience from a 3D standpoint, which it looks like they can do with these. That would be something that would make it, for me, and I agree, I think it is very niche, but it would be interesting. And it is also interesting at the presentation, the chairman of Disney was there, and Disney's all in on these glasses. All the Disney shows are being made available, and so there's lots of work they're going to do with Disney, and Disney does own ESPN, so maybe it is something that would be available.
No, for sure. If they could figure out ways to make it more affordable and easier. I heard that it's kind of bulky still because you have like a battery pack that you have to carry with you. Whatever, there are things people liked about it. There are negatives still about it, but certainly it looks cool, where you're not even, I believe you don't even have like remote controls. You're moving your hands and it's picking up where your hands are, and you're just in the air, just like clicking on icons. And so very unique technology. Like the vision is amazing. What could potentially do. I think the initial reaction was that it's expensive. Who knows how many they could sell, and I think that the battery, the battery pack was something that people were complaining about, but we'll see.
Yeah, and again, it's its first, it's like the first iPhone, right? It's very early.
Yeah, it's very, very early. I think they just came in at a high price point, probably just to get, if you want to get a lot of people to adopt that technology, that's a very high.
It's probably got to be under $1,000.
Yeah, I would think that probably, well, what's Meta? Meta's selling them for $500.
No,
It's not as nice, but
I think it's significantly lower. I think it was
oh, is it?
$299 was the price point, or $250. Yeah.
Oh, okay, right. So they're trying to sell it at that price point,
But again, they didn't have like well, and again, I haven't put the goggles on. I only saw the short presentation.
Yeah.
That came across my Twitter feed, but it looked like a lot of the icons from your phone or your laptop or your computer, right? If you're an Apple user,
yeah,
you immediately you can imagine using things right that are on your phone.
Yeah.
Will be immediately available, like they'll link, right? When you
Yeah.
put on, and I'm not a big Facebook user. I mean, we basically use Facebook for business, and I use the marketplace a little bit.
Yeah.
But Facebook they were trying to create different communities and worlds, and it was and they had games, but it wasn't like, I mean, what, half of America probably is in bed with the iPhone, maybe more. I don't know.
Yeah.
But everything on your iPhone would be available, like floating in space, right? And I mean, that maybe worth something, may not. We can't see yet, but it does make it really usable right away.
Right.
I mean, the problem with Meta is no one figured out how to, like, what was cool about it, what to do with it. They didn't have, it wasn't like the Facebook platform was put on these goggles and it made the Facebook platform better. What were
they trying to do? Like,
they were trying to create like worlds and games and, new experiences.
Right.
But if people don't, one thing we know with Apple is people love the experiences on their phone, right? And could they make, I mean, they showed something with the photos, which looked great, right? You could play with your photos. It just looked really cool.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Maybe eventually they'll look like sunglasses, and you just wear them every. I can't imagine walking down the street with this.
No.
Like with this.
No.
So let's see if we don't have do we have any questions? Well, if not, let me. Well,
nothing yet.
All right. Let's talk about maybe a little bit about risk management, because we do get questions about it. We don't have tools yet but we are building some tools. But I was going to just maybe use my paint, put some images on there. And when we talk about all right, risk management, right? A lot of times, I'll get a question people look at a particular trade, they'll do a trade and say, well, how do I then manage my risk if the trade goes down or goes up? And when we look at risk management, there are a lot of components to it, okay, on different levels. And that's not, how when the way people describe it, it's not really how, if you're looking at a trading operation, how it looks. So let me draw you a circle, try to kind of create an image. And when you're managing risk, you have a portfolio, right? You have a portfolio of risk assets, right? You have an inventory of risk assets, and for whatever reason, when you started doing the trades, you had your good reasons, right? And you're going to have a portfolio, and they're going to look, something like, you're going to have positions in SPY, let's say, maybe positions in Tesla, and so on, right? And they're contributing to this portfolio risk. So, and you're gonna be managing it on very different levels as a portfolio, as individual stocks. So just to give you maybe another picture, let's say you have a supermarket, grocery store, something like that, right? And you have inventory, you have, something like this, you have, apples, right? That's not apples, milk, all this stuff that you're managing, right? All this stuff you're managing, and you have to manage what you're going to have: your average cost, average sales price. You're going to have, shelf life, right? All these things, you're going to have a portfolio of, you're going to have a portfolio of risk, and you have to sit there and you have to manage it effectively. Okay, that's how you're managing your risk portfolio. And you could see that even something like apples, I'm going to click on it, right? How much is it contributing? And then I'm going to have all kinds of stats and all types of information to help me manage just the apples in my store. Okay, so you might have stats where there are certain times of the year, maybe you want to have more apples in inventory. I don't know, like say like Halloween or something where there's a higher demand. And then there might be certain times of the year there's a lower demand because they're not in season, they don't taste, there's not as high demand for it. You're going to have models that anticipate that. You're going to have models where you're looking at your average costs, sales, your margins. All this feeds into your overall system. Okay, so you can't just take, when we're talking about just sitting there on one trade and watching it, that's not like really risk management. That's just like taking a shot and hoping it goes your way. If it doesn't go your way, there's nothing to manage out of it. If it goes your way, you could decide what to do, but it's not a system of or portfolio of risk. All right. And then sometimes you're going to have within here, right? You're going to be calculating your profits and losses, right? What is each one doing? And then you could go in there deeper and get more data of like why are you losing, why are you making, what can you change, and then you're going to have things in here that might be losers but for a reason, right? So let's say you are, I don't know, you're selling chips, right? Pretzels, whatever. And let's say your chips, on average, you lose $1, right? On all your chips. But in your overall portfolio, this might be adding, because what's happening is that you also sell, let's say, beer, right? And your beer, you're making $5, but you're only making $5 when you sell chips next to it at a discount. So people will come to your store and buy because you offer chips at a discount, they're going to come to your store and they also have to buy beer, which is right next to it, right? So sometimes you're taking on losses right? Just like you are going to do in your portfolio with hedges and so forth, you're taking on losses because it overall, it's going to be contributing to your gains. Okay. So you can't look at just a trade in isolation. It's there's a system in place where you have to manage it correctly, knowing that this is okay. Because if I take this away and say, no way am I losing on anything. I don't care. I'm never losing anything. I'm never do. Okay, you take this away, and then all of a sudden this goes away, right? All of a sudden this goes away, and people just go buy their beer somewhere else, right? Then that's not good. Maybe milk. You need to have in there, even if you're losing, right? Even if you're losing money, you have to have milk, because if your grocery store doesn't have milk, if your supermarket does not have milk, people are going to go somewhere else. All right. And you're not going to sell any of the other stuff. Right. So breaking even, losing, even if you have to do it, it is part of the overall strategy. It's a necessary thing. Okay. So all these become part of your risk management, and you need to have that view in place, right? Where you're going to have, your risk, you're going to have, your delta risk, your gamma, your vega. How are you hedging these effectively? Are you capturing the edge that you think? Here you have costs and sales, right? Here you're going to have, you're going to have your expected versus actual, your expected versus actual returns and so forth. But the idea is you're going to have lots of different metrics helping you along the way to manage your overall portfolio of risk. All right. And on a single trade, even on a single trade, yes, you're going to have, why did you get into the trade? What is it contributing? Was it because of good edge? Was it because of a hedge? All this stuff, on an individual trade, and then it's going to feed into your overall portfolio in here. Okay. So when we talk about risk management, there are different levels. There's no general, answer. And we'll get into it more as kind of I start pushing out the tools, but you'll see that risk management itself, it's not like this simple, easy answer to everything. It's going to be all, what is the situation? What are all the factors? What are the variables involved? What are my outlooks? What are my expectations? What is my risk? And all that is going to need to be managed. All right. So just kind of giving you a small visual of like what we're going to be doing as we go along. I think we're right up at 9:30, Will. So
yeah, awesome job, D.
All right.
Very good comments in the chat about Apple. Interesting stuff. Great job as always, my friend. You have a great trading day.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining. Stay safe out there. Have a great trading day, and hope to see you guys tomorrow.
Awesome. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Yeah.